Cecil sat on the edge of her bed, looking out the window. The sun was low in the sky, casting warm light over the small park outside. She watched children laugh and play, running freely without a care. As she looked at them, a smile touched her face, but it quickly faded. Cecil often thought about her own freedom. She felt trapped by the expectations of her family and friends. She wanted to fit in, but sometimes it was hard. What did it mean to be normal? She wondered if anyone else felt the same way. Each morning was the same for Cecil. She woke up early, dressed in simple clothes, and made breakfast for her family. Her parents wanted her to be perfect. They often told her what to do, what to say, and even what to wear. Cecil wanted to please them, but she also wanted to be herself. She wanted to break free from their ideas and find her voice. Deep down, she feared that if she let her true self shine, others would judge her. At school, Cecil felt the pressure even more. She watched her classmates laugh and share stories, and she often sat quietly in the corner. She was afraid to speak. Girls would gossip about fashion or boys, and Cecil felt lost in their conversations. She wished to join in but worried about saying the wrong thing. Every time she raised her hand to answer a question, her heart raced. What if her answer was not good enough? One day during lunch, Cecil overheard a group of girls talking about a new trend. They were quick to laugh, and their words stung like sharp needles. "If you don't wear the right brand, you might as well not exist," one girl said, and the others giggled. Cecil's stomach sank. The pressure to conform felt heavy on her shoulders. She wanted to shout out that clothes did not define her. They could wear what they wanted, but it did not mean she had to follow their example. That day, as she walked home, Cecil thought deeply about these moments. Why did she feel so small? Why did the fear of judgment control her? She felt a mix of sadness and anger. It was hard. She wanted to feel strong and proud like the children in the park. She made a silent promise to herself. She would find a way to express who she really was. She started to think about the world outside of her bubble. The issues of fairness and equality were always in her mind. She saw friends struggle to fit in, and watched people tear each other down instead of lifting each other up, and it hurt. Cecil wanted to help change that. It was not just about her anymore. It was about everyone who felt the same way. If she learned to speak out and share her thoughts, maybe it could help her connect with others. The thought of breaking free from the labels that chained her was both frightening and exciting. All she needed was the courage to take the first step. She hoped she could discover that strength soon, as the pains of daily life continued to weigh down on her heart. As days passed, Cecil started to see the problem around her more clearly. One day at school, she overheard two girls talking in the hallway. They were discussing another girl, Rebecca, who did not wear the latest styles. "I can't believe she came to school like that," one girl laughed. "She looks so out of place." The other girl nodded and added, "Nobody will want to be friends with her." Cecil felt a pang in her heart. The group laughed, but Rebecca looked away, her face turning red. This hurt Cecil deeply because she understood what it felt like to be judged for not fitting in. That night, Cecil sat in her room, thinking about what she had heard. Why was being different seen as bad? She decided to speak to her friend Sophie, someone who always seemed to understand. "Sophie, why do people care so much about the way we look?" Cecil asked, feeling frustrated. Sophie shrugged. "I guess it's just how things are. People want to belong, and they think they have to dress a certain way to fit in." Cecil felt heavy with disappointment. Social norms ruled their school. Seemed like the same story everywhere. Everyone was trying so hard to be accepted. The next day, during art class, Cecil decided to draw a picture of the world with people holding hands, all looking different. She wanted to show how beautiful differences can be. When her teacher walked by, she paused to see Cecil's work. "It's nice, but maybe try something more common next time," she suggested with a faint smile. In that moment, Cecil realized that even teachers sometimes reinforce these ideas. The news of Rebecca continued to spread through the school. Some students stepped up to stand with her, but others kept judging. "She should just dress better," they said. Cecil frowned. She wished people would see Rebecca's kindness instead of focusing only on her clothes. As she started to reflect on her own ideas, she thought about her feelings when she painted. While art made her feel free, it seemed many kind people were stuck in the same tough spot. Society's rules felt strong, like a thick wall that refused to budge. One afternoon during a group project, Cecil spoke with Jake, a quiet boy in her class. He shared his thoughts on the judging around them. "It's like being perfect is the only way to be liked," he said with a sad look. "But what if it does not matter?" This conversation sparked something inside Cecil. She felt a wave of hope. Jake's words gave her courage. They discussed how many people felt scared or alone because of constant judgment. Cecil noticed that not everyone thought this way. Some students simply dismissed the issue. "What's the big deal? People can just get over it," they would say. This attitude frustrated Cecil. They just didn't see or understand the pain that came with those kinds of remarks. Many voices around her tried to fit into a mold, but it didn't have to be that way. Something inside her began to shift. Cecil was starting to realize that she could be part of a change. Although many obstacles existed, she felt that awareness was the first step to overcoming them. Cecil understood that to create awareness, she would need to open her heart and speak out. The way forward filled her with excitement. Maybe she was not alone in thinking differently. She wanted to help others see that acceptance could be beautiful. As she moved forward through each day, she prepared herself to take a stand, not only for herself, but also for those who felt isolated like Rebecca. The spark inside her started to grow, and she felt stronger than ever. She was ready to face whatever came next. With a new determination in her heart, Cecil began to think about how she could speak out for change. The idea felt exciting, but uncertainty floated around her like a dark cloud. The next week, she attended a class meeting, hoping to suggest a new project focused on acceptance and kindness. But as she presented her idea, her hands trembled. "I think we should create a group to support everyone, especially those who feel left out," she said, her voice shaky yet hopeful. Some classmates gazed at her with confused looks, while others laughed softly. "Why do we need this?" one boy asked, smirking. Cecil felt heat rush to her cheeks, feeling small again. "Everyone should just dress how they want," he went on. "If people want to be friends, they should try harder." The laughter that followed stung more than she expected. She realized that not everyone shared her vision. It was as if part of her classroom cared only about outside appearances. Competition ruled the moment. Cecil's heart sank. Why didn't they see how words could hurt? It seemed like no matter how many reasons she shared, the group would always resist. The energy in the room shifted, and Cecil felt a wave of pressure from her classmates. It was clear to her that they generally preferred the status quo, valuing fashion over friendship. She struggled with this realization. Not only was it hard to speak up, but people also fought against her wishes to open their hearts. That day, she walked home feeling defeated. She thought more about Rebecca. Why was it so easy for others to put her down? People pretended to be strong, hiding behind attitudes that dismissed feelings. A new fear began to creep into Cecil's mind. What if no one cared enough to make a difference? What if her dream of spreading kindness began to fade? As days passed, things did not improve. Cecil observed small problems turning into larger conflicts. A sad rumor started to spread about Rebecca. Classmates whispered that she wanted attention for being different. This broke Cecil's heart. "That is not true," she wanted to scream. She told Sophie, "I have to do something." Sophie agreed and said they could talk to their teacher. However, the more they expressed their thoughts, the more they faced resistance. Many just wanted to ignore complaints, thinking everything was fine. It was another confrontation when Cecil sat in art class and saw graffiti on the wall. "Be normal," it shouted. Cecil's anger boiled inside her. Normal meant following rules, but what about those who were not heard? They were told they must change and fit in. It felt unfair and wrong. Slowly, the feeling began to grow in her. She began realizing that the issue ran deep. Classmates who bullied or ignored differences were mostly afraid themselves, unwilling to see their own flaws. Feeling trapped in these swirling thoughts, Cecil faced more pressure each day. Questions about whether she should join in the teasing flashed through her mind, but she knew she would rather stand against it. Yet, as weekend plans arose, her friends suggested hanging out at a popular cafe where everyone wore their best clothes. Cecil reluctantly agreed but felt sick to her stomach. Clashing feelings weighed her down. How could she be part of a world that seemed to push away kindness? Then, in a stronger moment of clarity, she chose to focus her thoughts. No one could dictate her values. Conversations filled with misunderstanding could sway others but not define her actions. If Cecil wanted to spark more love and understanding, She must stay true to her vision. This would help her inspire hope for change and challenge the misunderstandings around her. Fueled by this idea, she took a breath and reminded herself of her goal: to unite. With the waves of uncertainty rolling in, she made the decision to stay strong. Cecil would not give up so easily. Change was still possible even when it felt hard. The tension continued to grow, but she was determined to push through. She gathered her courage, preparing to face the obstacles ahead. The following week felt different for Cecil. She woke up feeling a mix of energy and worry. The school talent show was just a few days away, and everyone was talking about what to perform. Cecil thought it would be the perfect chance to make a stand. She could speak about acceptance and love in her performance. However, the closer she got to the date, the more uncertain she became. What if everyone laughed? What if no one listened? Still, Cecil pushed through. She worked on her script, hoping to share about Rebecca and those like her who felt judged. She rehearsed her lines with Sophie, who cheered her on. "This is your moment, Cecil. You can make a difference." But the words of her classmates came back to haunt her. Each time someone whispered, "Just fit in," or "Why bother?" It chipped away at Cecil's confidence. As the talent show approached, Cecil's friends began to hold practices. Most of them planned to perform skits that made fun of others at their school. They texted her about their ideas, excitedly planning the best jokes, but Cecil could not join in. That evening, when she shared her thoughts with Sophie, there was silence. "Don't you think that might hurt people?" Cecil asked gently. "It's just funny," Sophie replied, shrugging. "Getting laughs is the goal, right?" Cecil's heart sank. It felt like a fist in her stomach. If her closest friend didn't understand, who would? For a long moment she froze. Doubts battled inside her. Was it worth trying when her friends seemed to find joy in laughter that hurt others? Would her push for understanding leave her alone? High stakes began to rise. Her reputation felt fragile. She did not want to become an easy target. On the day of the show, Cecil stood backstage, fidgeting with her script. As she watched her friends perform, they effortlessly made everyone laugh. The energy in the room was electric, filled with cheers and joy. Cecil clenched her script tightly, feeling more and more doubt. She wanted the same connection, but not at the cost of her values. As her turn approached, the pressure grew like a heavy weight. When she finally stepped into the light, silence fell over the crowd. A sea of faces looked up at her. Cecil's heart raced, pounding loudly. They were expecting jokes or fun. What if her words did nothing? Should she still speak? In that moment, she realized this was a breaking point for her. If she wanted to address the issue, it would take bravery. Then, as she opened her mouth, she saw Rebecca sitting in the audience. Just one glance at her friend ignited something inside her. Cecil took a deep breath, and something beautiful happened. It felt like an invisible push, telling her to go on. However, the speaker right before her closed with a tearing remark. "No one is perfect," he said with laughter. "We all know that." Cecil's stomach dropped. It was not just that he made fun of others. He had targeted the vision she cherished. She felt torn. Should she speak against this behavior or stay silent to protect herself? Questions rippled through her mind. What would happen if she challenged the cheers that came with hurt? What if she responded with courage and faced backlash? The strength and fear inside her tangled in a web that felt impossible to escape. Her heart raced as she considered the risks. Could she sacrifice friends and safety for something she believed in? The thought of being alone scared her, but was it worse than staying silent? Suddenly, she felt that light of hope shine brighter. In that fleeting moment, Cecil realized her voice could lead to change. The time for decision had come, and whether it was difficult, she needed to stand tall. No matter what the outcome, she knew she had to try. As Cecil stood in front of the crowd, everything felt frozen for a moment. The noise of laughter and applause faded into the background, replaced by the sound of her own heartbeat. She took a deep breath, the script trembling in her hands. There was a lump in her throat, but she needed to speak. This was her chance, and she could not let fear control her. With that thought, she opened her mouth, standing tall under the bright lights. "Hello everyone," she began, her voice shaking but firm. "I want to talk about kindness. Many of us laugh at each other to feel better. But have you ever thought about how it feels to be judged?" A wave of whispers rippled through the crowd. Some faces looked confused, and a few started mocking smiles returned. Despite the uncertain reactions, Cecil pressed on. This was why she stood here. I know what it feels like to hide behind a mask, she continued, her words gaining power. I see friends laugh about fashion and looks, but it is not just funny. It hurts people. I know it hurt Rebecca. The room fell silent as Cecil pointed toward Rebecca, who sat in the back, eyes wide and searching. For that brief moment, the spell of laughter vanished. Some students glanced at each other, unsure of how to react. Cecil's heart raced. She moved closer to the edge of the stage and let out a sigh. We talk about being different as a bad thing, but being different can be beautiful, can be strong. I refused to let fear and judgment silence me. The tension in the room sharpened. Cecil could see students shifting in their seats, unsure whether to support her honesty or retreat into their comfort zones. Yet it felt right. The courage to speak her truth was finally taking hold. Suddenly, a voice erupted from the front row. This is silly. It was the same boy who laughed at Rebecca a few days earlier. You just want attention. This is dumb. Fingers pointed at Cecil, and her heart dropped. People should laugh together, not at others, she said, finding the strength to push onward. The boy's laughter cut through her confidence like a knife, but she would not back down. As her words echoed in the hall, the murmurs became a chorus of agreement and disagreement. I know people like us fear being judged, Cecil continued, her voice raising above the noise. But we need to change this. She looked around the room, seeking faces filled with understanding, determined to break the wall of fear. She focused on those who needed support more than anything and spoke directly to them. Fear does not have to win. We can create a place where we stand for each other and celebrate differences. You may laugh, but laughing should be about joy, not pain. Her heart pounded in her chest, anticipation swirling around her. It felt like the air had thickened, making it harder to breathe. In that moment she felt clarity. The time for quiet was over. Even if faced backlash, she would fight the pressure for conformity. Pushing through the noise of opposition, Cecil challenged her classmates to reflect on their choices. Each sentence became a small flame, igniting hope and frustration in the crowd. She could see the flicker of understanding beginning to spread. As Cecil spoke, the atmosphere shifted. Some remained resistant, yet others began nodding in support. For the first time, Cecil felt a wave of unity breaking barriers. The energy in the room plunged deeper as everyone absorbed her message. People were listening, and it felt thrilling. This was her moment. Feelings of hope wrapped around her tightly as Cecil used this turning point to address the real problem. It was not just about standing up for Rebecca, but also liberating everyone who felt held down. The stakes had risen. Her words could create change or draw fire. But at that moment, nothing would stop her. In the face of opposition, Cecil stood tall with her message, ready to challenge the world. After Cecil finished her message, a wave of silence swept across the auditorium. The students looked at each other, expressions reflecting a mixture of surprise, confusion, and for some understanding. Cecil stepped back, heart pounding as she awaited their reactions. The tension in the air felt heavy, but there was also a sense of hope that thrummed like a melody through the crowd. Slowly, the first applause echoed in the back, followed by another clap here and there. To her shock, the entire room soon erupted into cheers. Students stood up, showing their support, and Cecil smiled through her tears. She could hardly believe what had just happened. In that moment, it felt like the heavy weight of expectations faded. But as the cheers continued, Cecil spotted familiar faces in the audience that did not share her joy. Some students rolled their eyes, clearly unimpressed, while others whispered harsh comments among themselves. "This is ridiculous," one boy sneered, crossing his arms. "She thinks this speech matters," an equally dismissive voice echoed. Though her heart soared with relief and new friendships were building, deep inside, Cecil felt the stings of negativity. The very students who laughed at Rebecca were still resistant. They had not grasped the message she hoped to send. That part saddened her, reminding Cecil that change could take time. Even with this small victory, the challenges were still strong. In the following days, ideas began to grow in unexpected ways. After the show, more students approached Cecil. They told her how her words inspired them. They wanted to join her mission. Many began to support Rebecca, and the laughter that once hurt slowly turned into friendships blooming. Cecil felt a surge of pride. Her friend Sophie came to her with light in her eyes. "I never realized how important this was," she admitted. "I want to help too." Together, They started planning discussions to raise awareness about kindness and acceptance. Their ideas sparked excitement and hope. They organized activities like art contests and sharing circles, allowing students to express their feelings more openly. Little by little, the school began to feel different. Yet not all voices joined the wave. The boy who had mocked Cecil during her speech was vocal again, working hard to maintain the old ways of laughter that hurt. Others agreed with him, pushing back against the shift. Each day the tension grew, but this only made Cecil more determined. She realized that true change could be messy, that mixing hope with challenges could swirl into storms. One afternoon, while walking down the hallway, Cecil and Sophie spotted Rebecca sitting on a bench alone. Cecil and Sophie approached her, wanting to know how she felt about the changes in school. Rebecca smiled softly, her eyes shining. "I feel less alone now. People are being kinder. It matters." Her words touched Cecil deeply, igniting even more fire in her heart. Small victories like this fueled her ambition. However, tough moments still existed. The group opposing Cecil started spreading rumors, hoping to undermine her message. They whispered to others, "Cecil is trying too hard to be liked. She wants attention." Still, Cecil knew she had to stay the course. The hurtful comments would come, but several friends stood at her side, reminding her that the journey would not always be easy. As the weeks passed, Cecil recognized that she could not change everyone's perspective overnight. Growth was tricky and required patience. However, she felt a sense of confidence blooming. She began to see the effects of her courageous stand. Reaching one heart at a time brought about real goodness and love. The journey toward acceptance was long, and she understood that trying to disrupt the cycle took time. The battle was not over, but it had begun anew, and every small act of kindness pushed them further forward. That felt like a victory worth celebrating. As days turned into weeks, Cecil began to see the wider impact of her words during the talent show. The shifts in her school grew more noticeable. Teachers started discussing kindness and acceptance in classes. For example, in English class, the teacher encouraged students to write essays on how it feels to be different. This focus sparked conversations about empathy and respect. Cecil noticed classmates sharing personal stories with honesty, helping others understand their feelings better. Outside of school, the community also started paying attention. Cecil's speech had traveled beyond her school walls. A local newspaper published an article about the talent show and highlighted her message of acceptance. This caught many people's eyes. Parents began talking about the need for kindness in their own neighborhoods. They started organizing community events, focused on bringing people together to celebrate differences. However, change did not come without struggle. Some parents disagreed with the focus on acceptance, fearing it overshadowed other topics. In Phoenix Middle School that had students touching on serious issues, a divide began forming. People who felt it best to preserve old values resisted. "Why do we have to change what we already have?" they would ask. This made Cecil realize that the ripple effect of her actions brought mixed responses. Despite some pushback, the students remained vocal, supporting Cecil's call for kindness. They held meetings trying to discuss how they could be more inclusive. "We need to reach out to others who still feel alone," said one of Cecil's friends excitedly. The students felt connected and determined to promote positive change. With each meeting, they formed a support group that welcomed anyone looking for friendship or a safe space to express their thoughts. Still, challenges lurked in their path. A few students began sharing hurtful comments on social media. They called the whole effort silly and claimed it was unnecessary. They said things like, "We don't need to talk about feelings." Cecil felt crushed hearing such words from peers, especially since she thought they were ready to embrace the new ideas. It was clear that not everyone was willing to let go of traditional perspectives. Cecil and her friends realized that resistance would be part of this journey. Even when progress seemed evident in school, some aspects felt heavy and monotonous. They remained committed to reaching out to those who felt untouched by the change. They organized events focusing on activities everyone could enjoy, such as art and music festivals. These celebrations allowed students to come together, revealing how their joys often surpassed the fears of standing out. Over time, more students stepped forward to join the inclusive movement. Witnessing transformations filled Cecil with hope. One afternoon, she spotted a newcomer who had always kept to herself engaging with others in a friendly ball game. It brought warmth to her heart and reminded Cecil that change was happening. piece by piece. As they moved forward, they experienced both small victories and hard truths. Not all changes would be instant, nor was everyone ready to embrace new views. But the more they shared ideas and listened, the more that walls began to crumble. Cecil understood that some changes are gradual. Even as obstacles remained, she realized that every small act of kindness created ripples leading to something greater. With time, Cecil felt lighter. The struggle had made her stronger, and united with friends focused on pushing the movement for understanding. She grew more confident that, with patience and courage, they could inspire shifts beyond their school, fostering environments where everyone could thrive. Even after setbacks, this foundation of hope continued to grow, making every effort worth it. As the school year came to an end, Cecil sat quietly in her favorite spot under the big tree in the park. She looked around, soaking in the beauty and warmth of the sun. So many changes had happened in her life since she stood on that stage and spoke about kindness. She felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. It was hard to believe how far she had come. Cecil reflected deeply on her journey and what it had meant to her. She remembered the fear and doubt she felt before speaking up. The idea of facing judgment frightened her, but something shifted within her that day. Her words ignited a spirit of unity among her classmates. She learned that speaking from the heart opened pathways to understanding. By connecting openly and honestly, she found strength in her voice. This bravery built a small community of supporters, transforming lives, even if just a bit. Cecil also pondered the challenges that still existed. The acceptance her school strived for was not complete. She noticed some students still clinging to old ways of thinking. Despite the growing movement, resistance lived on. Cecil knew that some friends would always find comfort in judging others. That frustrated her but reminded her that change needed patience and understanding. It wasn't just about her school. It was about raising awareness within the wider community. There was much more work to do. Through this journey, Cecil discovered the value of standing up for what one believes in. Her experiences taught her that making a difference often starts small. It often begins with conversations and connections that help build bridges instead of walls. The moments of joy when new friendships blossomed shined bright against the darker days filled with struggle. Rather than getting lost in discouragement, she learned to see each setback as a chance to rise again. Cecil also found a passion for advocacy and making kindness the center of her actions. She took part in organizing school events that promoted understanding and acceptance further. Students created an art exhibit celebrating diversity, showcasing how everyone brought unique colors and gifts to their community. Parents, teachers, and students all came together. This effort highlighted that love was more significant than judgment. Small victories filled Cecil with hope. As she watched the ongoing changes unfold around her, Cecil felt a spark of determination. She promised herself that she would keep pushing for awareness, giving voices to those who felt silenced. Yet, with each new challenge that arose, she noticed old fears creeping in. What would happen if change wasn't fast enough? Would the community remember to celebrate kindness when it was hard? With these questions in mind, Cecil understood that the journey toward acceptance was ongoing. Change takes time, and some people may never embrace it fully. But each step forward mattered. 5 steps could feel overwhelming, but slowly they would lead to a more understanding world. She realized she could inspire others not just with words, but with actions showing empathy and love. As life continued and summer approached, Cecil felt excitement for what lay ahead. She would take her lessons into the new adventures waiting for her in high school. With deeper understanding and newfound strength, she felt ready to face new stories and new challenges. She had grown, and the kindness she once spoke about had become a part of her daily life. Cecil understood how strong a simple act or a caring word could be, believing that, together, everyone could shine brightly. With this reflection as she sat under the tree, she knew one thing for sure. The journey was just beginning. As summer approached, the school community buzzed with energy. Cecil felt proud of the progress she had seen. The kindness club she and her friends created had grown. Meetings drew in many students eager to share their ideas. New friendships blossomed, and voices that had once felt small now rang out with confidence. Cecil watched her classmates grow. They embraced differences and stood together against negativity in a way that comforted her soul. The efforts were making a difference in their school and beyond. Cecil's own bond with Rebecca flourished. They had become close friends, and their laughter echoed through the hallways. Rebecca, once shy and reserved, now proudly shared her artistic talents. She organized art showcases, allowing students to express themselves creatively. As each person shared their art, connections deepened. The school became a place where everyone felt valued, where interests could shine without fear of judgment. Cecil felt ripple waves of change forming in their community. However, not every story concluded smoothly. The opposition persisted. Some students still clung to old beliefs, finding comfort in keeping things the same. Every now and then, hurtful comments would surface, and students like Cecil had to gently remind their peers about the kindness they had promised to show each other. It served as a reminder that this journey toward acceptance was a continuous battle. Cecil learned that these honest conversations could encourage others to think differently over time. Cecil's teachers took notice and changed even certain aspects of the school's curriculum. They introduced lessons focused on empathy, highlighting historical figures who fought against prejudice and discrimination. The students analyzed texts and engaged in discussions, connecting what they learned to their lives. Cecil felt energized by this newfound focus. It echoed her thoughts that real change comes through understanding and education. Education brought light, and she found herself inspired to learn more. As summer dawned, Cecil prepared for new challenges ahead. The new school year promised opportunities to continue advocating for acceptance. While she enjoyed the break, she envisioned more hands working together toward positive change when they returned. Yet, as life flowed on, she understood. The path would not always be smooth. Times of resistance would continue to challenge their progress, but every battle worth fighting required persistence. One day, sitting under her favorite tree, Cecil noticed a child sitting alone in the distance, the shadow of feeling unseen in their eyes. This made Cecil stop and reflect once more on her journey. She realized how fortunate she was to have found her voice. But so many struggled in silence. They still needed support and encouragement. She had a larger job ahead, one that didn't end with her story. As Cecil knelt in the grass, a thought sparked in her mind. What if we all took a moment to reach out? The simple act of caring could create ripples reaching those still waiting to find their place. Cecil began to see that change required everyone's participation, not just hers. Would kindness continue beyond their school? Would others embrace this mission? With thoughts swirling in her head, Cecil made a personal promise to herself. She would look for chances to use her voice to empower, connect, and uplift others. Each kindness starts a wave that can inspire more. Cecil saw that change always begins with one person, but it blossoms when many join together. The decision to act becomes a call to others to lead with their hearts, sparking new paths toward kindness. As she pondered the power of this choice, she realized something joyful. Together they could change the world one act of kindness at a time. What could you do today to be part of that change?